Hey, hey, we are live. I'm just triple checking to make sure we're not having volume issues or anything. And we're going to get this party started. I see us. Let me make sure. Yeah, tell us a little bit about. Oh, shoot, that's not it. Okay, we got volume. We're good to go. Hey,
Okay, good.
y'all. I am so excited to be having this conversation today. I have a new face in the place, a new series that I am introducing to the masses. And it's something that I have been thinking about for a really long time. And I'm in this season of taking things out of my vault, out of my mind, and actually putting them into action and making these things a reality in service of my most ideal clients, right? Of my community. I don't take it lightly that you are here, that you are watching this, that you have been watching um, different videos that I do by myself or with special invited guests. But this series that we are kicking off today is called The Best of Both Worlds, a therapist and the life coach. And so, what I'm going to be doing is extending invitations to my network of therapists who I feel like are my counterparts in this marvelous work that I do as a life coach, and bringing them on so that one, we can expand the awareness of what it really means to have a therapist and also allow you to experience therapists upfront and personal and close the gap on what I know is one of the chief complaints and concerns is I don't know where to go, I don't know what to look for, and a lot of it is like personality driven and you just don't get that from online, from somebody's static picture. I'm connected to some of the most amazing people walking this earth, and I'm going to do what I can in my own right, in my own power to close the gap and just connect my folk. If you know anything about me, I believe in connecting my people with one another. So, that being said, if you happen to be new to me, I am Danyale the coach. I'm a certified life and leadership coach, and I have made it my business in more ways than two to help mid career professionals quit their 9 to 5 without regret. And what that means for me and my clients is it could be two things. On one end, it is the mid career professional who has the entrepreneurial spirit and they want to take the big leap, but they don't have the clarity nor the confidence to do it in a way that manages their sanity. On the other side, it's a mid career professional who wants to do something different for their day job, not necessarily wanting to get rid of the 9 to 5 altogether, but definitely the one that they have right now. And so they have no idea how to uproot themselves, having almost upwards, if not more than 2 decades of professional experience, and having the audacity to want to do something different. So I support them with getting clear on what next could look like, what's possible, what's tied to their purpose, and how they can absolutely create a life, the life of their wildest dreams, like while they're living, right? And not that in my next life type of way. That's who I am. That's what I do. I'm going to have my special guest introduce himself in 1 second. But if you happen to be here with us live, thank you for being here. Do me a favor and drop us a comment and just say, hey, so that we know that you are here. And if you happen to be catching this on the replay, we're glad that you're here too. Like this is not by happenstance. Just type replay in the comments wherever you're seeing this, and I'll come back through and show you some love as well. So, Mr. Danielle, can you do us the honors of introducing yourself?
Hi, I am Danielle Little, LPC here in the Richmond, Virginia area.
Awesome. Okay, so this is going to be, I intend for this to be a super fundamental, foundational conversation, right? As I begin to have more of these conversations around therapy, what it means, what it looks like, what's possible, all the things. So, what does, when you say you're an LPC, what does that mean?
That means I'm a licensed professional counselor here in Virginia. So I can counsel anyone here in Virginia. Virginia and California are two of the hardest places to become licensed. And being an LPC, that allows me to see clients legally and build their insurances. However, people can choose to see a counselor and self pay, but if you're wanting to use insurance to do that, insurances will only pay a licensed professional counselor, at least here in Virginia.
Okay, so if I live, I must live in Virginia in order to be able to enlist your services.
Exactly. They are currently working on something that is called the Counseling Compact that would
Yes.
allow me to counsel people in other areas that are members of the compact. That has been approved by Congress. However, the way it is supposed to work is if I were seeing you here in Virginia and you moved to another state, I would still be able to counsel you. But as a added benefit, what has come about is that I still could counsel someone, say in a compact state, if I asked for permission to counsel in that state. I would still have to um, meet all the requirements of licensure in that other state in order to still counsel that client.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard what he just said about California and Virginia being two of the hardest states to be a licensed counselor. But he just tooted his own horn, and I'm here for it. I told y'all I am connected to some of the most amazing people. So listen, there are no slouches in my network at all whatsoever. So I'm here for it. So here, a reason why this series is important to me, and also this conversation with you and me extending the invitation to you specifically, is because I know that I've had clients who have come and enlisted my help, my support as their life coach. I know that I've had experience with clients who have worked with the therapist prior to working with me.
Okay.
And they've had the awareness that, I work with a therapist. I know I needed some support, and it was great. But then I realized I needed a different kind of support after we um, overcame some things, right?
Okay.
And that's one scenario. I've had clients come to me and enlist my support, and then also enlist a therapist. So they were working with both of us in tandem, and seeing all kinds of breakthroughs, just having the right
Right.
support in the right at the right time already in place, right? And it's just a part of their lifestyle and their day-to-day routine. I've also had clients work with me, um, and there's something that may come up where we'll talk about what other support might you need. And sometimes it is, I think I may need therapy, right? And I make it
Okay.
crystal clear with my clients. I make the distinction at the outset, the very first formal conversation we have after they become a client. Like, I want to distinguish the difference between therapy and coaching, right? The coaching may feel therapeutic, but this is not therapy. I am not licensed. I got friends that do that, right?
But there are several overlaps in
Yes.
coaching and counseling, and then I have some people that unfortunately think that if you have a counselor, then you don't need a life coach, and if you have a life coach, you don't need a counselor. That is a huge myth. We really concentrate in our concentration may be in different areas, but there will be overlap. For instance, like one of the theories that I use is cognitive behavior therapy.
Yep.
And therapists are more about your cognitions, about your thoughts, and changing negative thought patterns that will help you
Mm,
function. And I believe coaches are more geared to that performance and helping you reach that top level of performance, where coaches are not necessarily interested in your past, just maybe to see how you overcame those obstacles. They're really trying to prepare you to be the best you can be in the future. Whereas with therapy, those cognitions may be based on, most often, are based on learned behaviors, even going back to childhood. We learn what we live.
hmm.
So we try to look at those things and see how we can better function in the future.
Got it. Is it fair to say, from your uh, in your professional opinion, that therapy is based on helping you overcome like past traumas that may be
You know,
affecting how
that
you're showing up today?
Yeah,
And
that's one
coaching.
aspect, but therapy
Okay.
can help so many people with so many different things. There may be people that have these past traumas, and a lot of people do have traumas, but you don't necessarily have to have had a trauma or have a mental illness or something that's extremely severe to come to therapy. For instance, the say if you wanted to come to marriage counseling, the
Mm-hmm.
worst thing you can do is wait. So the earlier you get marriage counseling, the better. So the worst thing you could do is wait to seek therapy. So if there's something that you feel you want to talk about that you're not able to share with your intimate circle, or something you just don't want to share, you can talk to a therapist about that.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said that, right? So I am of the mindset where, just in just the spaces that I take up, and it could be isolated, but I don't think it is. We're at a point now culturally, and especially in my generation, millennials, We call ourselves geriatric millennials, those that are on the upper echelon of that range, right? Where therapy is like a household term now, which I think is a
Right.
great thing. And I know culturally, for people of color, it hasn't always been that way. It's been taboo. But over time, in the last decade, 2 decades or so, something has shifted, and it's become more of a norm, a common part of conversation. But I think it's also, I don't know if sensationalized is the right way to describe it, but it's also, I think it's used super loosely. Man, I need to find a therapist. I need to find somebody to talk to, right? And so we say it in jest, and I'm guilty of that too, right? Say it in jest, but there is sometimes, probably oftentimes, some root to it and really needing some type of professional support. So, based on what you were just saying, like, what's a good litmus test now that we are open to therapy, right? As a culture, especially the younger generation, what's a good litmus test to know, like, okay, I'm saying this in jest, but no, I think I really do need some professional support.
If you are saying it to yourself in jest, then actually you do. You don't have to wait again till something is very severe before you get help, because that way you may have been able to stop something before it gets to the point of being that severe. Where your anxiety and depression, if you tackle it and find coping skills now, it may not lead to depression that has you thinking of ways to have a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And when I say that, that means self-harm, and someone that's successful at
Mm,
self-harm. So when you're starting to feel that anxiety, or you're starting to feel that depression, and your cognitions are telling you it's the thing to do it then. Because more and more, as the anxiety or that depression starts to weigh on you, you might not be as likely to reach out for help.
all right, let's stay right there, right? So what, we're in this space, and it's just like I'm thinking I need help. I'm noticing. I don't know if this is anxiety. I don't know if it's depression. Those terms are used loosely as well. But I know something feels off. I need to talk to somebody. I'm not comfortable sharing it, how I'm feeling, with my inner circle for whatever reason. What do I do? Like, where do I go next?
Yeah,
That's a
you find
big
counseling.
stopping point.
You know, in a perfect world, you would have someone that will be able to recommend somebody, because you
Mm,
would automatically feel comfortable with this trusted friend
mhm,
recommending them.
mhm,
That's not going to always happen. And I
mhm.
know there are sites where you can go and you can look at pictures. And I know that African Americans often want to talk to another African American. And I'll mention Psychology Today. I'm listed on Psychology Today. I've gotten several clients from there. However, I still understand that it's a difficult place to be. So
Mhm.
wherever you can, go ahead, and it's okay to talk to the counselor, to reach out and just have a conversation. And most counselors that really care, they'll give you that 10, 15 minutes, even in consultation, that you don't have to pay for, because what you're looking for is for a client that can make a connection with you. And if the client can't make a connection with me, I don't want them to waste their time with me. So I want them to see that they're comfortable talking to me. So I like to have a one-on-one without the pressure of them having to fill out papers and do that, so that they feel committed. That way we can have this friendly exchange,
Yeah.
and then they will see if this is something that they want to do with me.
Got it. So is the let's say they take the psychology today approach, right? Because I know that's even happened in my space.
Okay.
I know there was a time when I was looking for some support as well, and I believe I asked, like, at least one of my good girlfriends, and she recommended Psychology Today, right?
Okay.
But great, we have condensed the world of opportunity to one website. Then I
Okay.
get on the
Right.
website and I'm this information overload, right? How do I know who's good and all of that? But I know, based on what you said, most counselors or therapists must be licensed in the state in which you reside. So that's a good place
Yes.
to start, right? Are
Right.
they, as far as the process of elimination, are they licensed in my state? Because, yeah, I could love them, but they can't help me if they're not in my state, right?
Okay. Right.
Okay. And then I guess, uh, is it often listed, like, what type of services the therapist offers? Do I
It
know?
is, and most excuse me, most therapists are trained in a lot of areas.
Okay.
However, even on those sites, we list items that we might specialize in. So
Okay.
if you are looking for someone to do marriage and therapy counseling. Any therapist in Richmond, in Virginia, can do that. But if that's not listed as their specialty, don't choose that counselor, because that may not be something where they put all of their energy, although they can do it. And in some cases, it's unethical to turn down a client just because I don't like that particular that that particular issue. It's kind of like you showing up at the hospital in the emergency room. Oh, he got hit by a car. I don't like car accidents. I'm gonna walk away from this. Somebody else want that? You can't really do
I didn't see anything.
so yes, so you have to have an ethical reason not to take a client.
Okay.
And one of the biggest reasons that I believe, aside from a couple seeking couples counseling too late, is the lack of the counselor that fits well with you. And
Okay.
and I don't want to make this all about couples counseling. That what is one of my passions, obviously, is the couples counseling. But you have to find a counselor that is comfortable and passionate about the particular item that you want to talk about. Whereas other items may come up, but the
Right.
basis for why you came to see them, both of you will be comfortable. There needs to be what is called the therapeutic alliance, and that will happen as you feel the counselor is comfortable with you.
Got it. Okay. And so then we have this therapeutic alliance. Let's say it gets out of alignment, right? And because I've
Okay.
heard those stories too. Okay, I'm working with a therapist. They're not really my cup of tea. I don't think I'm theirs. Whatever's happening, it's not no longer serving like the client. What is that process like of I guess breaking up with the
You
therapist
know,
if I'm in
and
there?
that is, it happens. It's even happened with me before. I think
No way.
that me and this particular client, we just did not fit. Uh,
Okay.
and So what I did was, it's not about me. So I'm not in this to help me. So
Hmm.
I suggested a few other therapists that would be a better fit for this particular client. And something kind of strange happened that I wasn't expecting. I saw an appointment on my schedule for this particular client. I said, they dropped me. But they made this appointment to thank me for hooking them up with the right therapist. And they said,
Okay.
"So I guess you did care after all, huh?"
Yeah,
So,
but I
but
think
for
it's
whatever
also
reason,
important to it's
yeah,
important to know that like we do have a responsibility to advocate for ourselves and not suffer in silence, even if we do have support at our fingertips, right?
exactly. So, and if the therapist has not picked up on the fact that you are struggling with that alliance, then you need to be honest with that therapist. Therapy is the place that you have to be more honest with yourself than you ever would dare be to the rest of the world. So, and if
Mm,
that relationship is not working, then you need to find someone that, excuse me, the relationship does work with.
got it. Okay. All right. So my most ideal client, like I mentioned, kind of gave the spiel earlier, is mid-career professional, but they're also entrepreneurs, right? Because some
Okay.
of my clients are entrepreneurs that have not, that are still juggling a 9 to 5, and I do have some clients that are full-time entrepreneurs too. So that's the sandbox that I play in. So what would you
Yeah.
say are like the top three issues or concerns that you've seen for like mid-career professionals and entrepreneurs?
Okay. If I think about that, that would be anxiety,
Hmm.
burnout, and loss of focus. And let me touch on the three of those. And actually, I'm glad you asked that. For instance, like the anxiety, that's one of the areas where they may be more inclined to need more assistance from a therapist. Say they had a therapist and a coach at this particular time. So the
Hmm.
therapist may be able to offer a little more support in that anxiety realm, because that's what we kind of focus on. And then the second thing I thought about was burnout. Now, either the coach or the therapist can assist with burnout, because clients have to take into account self care. And as part of the therapy I do, along with cognitive behavior therapy, is mindfulness therapy. And
Hmm.
I'll get back to that in a second.
Okay.
And the third thing, and both can help with the burnout. And the other thing is loss of focus for your career and your goal. And then I would really like for my clients at that point to speak more to their life coach, because that life
Mhm.
coach will find out what their purpose and their passion is about this career. Because I'm not really a career counselor, but you can see where coaching and being a therapist overlap. And in something like that, I think that the person would actually need both the client, the therapist to deal with the anxiety, both of them to deal with burnout, and then that life coach to, of course, to get them back on focus and get rid of the fear. The biggest fear for entrepreneurs is the fear that they're going to fail.
Huh, preach. Let me pass the offering, please. Somebody get it for
but,
me, please.
but that is why I'm glad I have coaches like you that can get people to realize their own passion and figure out why they're an entrepreneur in the first place and what their purpose is. That's
Yeah.
really not something that will happen in a therapy session.
Mm. Okay, I'm so glad you said that. And I actually I talked to somebody very recently, and they kind of mimicked some of that. I think they kind of developed that kind of awareness themselves, thinking that you know, there were some things that they felt like they needed therapy to support them
Mhm.
with, to address. And then over time, it came to um, like something shifted. It's just like, okay, I think I'm good here, but I think I need something different that therapy cannot support me with, and that's okay, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
Um, okay, so that was good. I definitely see the burnout. I definitely see career fatigue. And then there's some anxiety that happens when the thoughts start to swirl and spiral. And I can even say, for a while, maybe even for just a short time, I may have experienced it too when I was making decisions. But I did it in my own bubble, right? I did it in my shell, and this is why I'm so passionate about the work that I do, because I know what that is like. And yes, I was able to break free from my 9 to 5 without regret. Um, but I know what it's like to also be supported, and listening to help, the support. And for me, it was the accountability of a life coach because I was burnt out. I had a hellish commute, after working 9.5 hours, 2 hours of a van ride to and from DC. And then when I got home, I didn't have the energy to do anything. So I knew, in me being the go getter that I am, I just didn't have what it took to prioritize my future and wanting to dig myself out of this career quicksand, if you will. I felt like I was like slowly sinking, right? And there was no lifeline available until I decided that something's got to give, right? And like nobody's coming to save me. I got to
Right.
ask for the help that I need. And for me, it started with finding me a life coach, ironically.
And
So,
and unfortunately, I would say I'm here today because I did not have a life coach. I
mm,
originally was in IT, design partner at First Union. I designed some of their um, networks across the U.S. And then I went out on my own, and it had started to become successful. And fear got me to close my company and take another 9 to 5. I let the
mm,
fear and devastation of other people affect
mm.
me. With a life coach, I probably would have $1 million um, um, IT firm now because I was
Empire,
doing well.
multi-million
I was
dollar.
I was on top, and it's like, oh, I don't. And then one client lost it. Oh, I don't have any insurance. I'm not working on my 401k, and all these things. And I let their issues become my issues when they
Mhm,
didn't have to, because I had answers to those things. I had insurance through my spouse. I had saved some money. And so these things that were their issues didn't need to be my issue to stop my business. I know that now,
yeah, of
that I
course.
have a life coach in my life like you. So I could have, if you had made me focus on my passion and my purpose, I would not have focused on my doubt. So,
If I didn't have more questions for you, I would say, you know what, we gotta wrap this conversation right there, because like that's it. That's it. But I do have some other questions for you that I think will be super helpful to not only me, but also our viewers who are here with us live and also watching the replay. If you're here with us live, do me a favor and say hey. And again, if you're watching the replays, drop replay in the comments wherever you're watching this, and I'll come back through and show you some love. So for you as the LPC in the state of Virginia, right? What would you or your clients say about you that makes you different as a therapist?
I wish I knew what that was. My clients have stayed with me, and I wish I could package it. If I could just can it, I do. But my clients seem to connect with me, and I think it's because I'm able to ask and be concerned in a very sincere way. And even before I was a counselor, I recognized that I was able to connect with people, even asking the same question. Uh, for instance, one thing that was really funny to me, I worked in this building, the cafeteria was on the first floor, and I saw this young lady, she was speaking to everyone, hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm fine, how are you? I'm great, how are you? And they were asking each other, how are you? And I know she did that at least 10 times. How are you? I'm great. She did that. I walked behind her, we got on the elevator, I said, hey, how are you? Let me tell you. And then so all of a sudden, the answer wasn't, I'm great. She felt like she was in a safe place in the elevator with me, that she could actually tell me what was actually wrong with her. Because we are conditioned as Americans, especially Black Americans, when someone speaks, you speak back, and you give them, you don't just dump everything on them. It's like when someone asks you how you're doing, you reply. You don't think they really want to know. But for
Right.
some reason, even when I asked and I wasn't a therapist, people believed I did want to know. And before I was a therapist, it was just because I was probably being nosy. But I was truly concerned about them. Like, why are you down? Really, you don't have that smile that you normally have. What's going on with you? And
Yeah.
I would really listen to what they were saying. And I had the ability even then to know when someone just wanted me to listen, or they wanted me to try to help and fix their problem. So
Mm.
most of the time, I just listened. That person would then come back later when they felt like they were ready to fix it. And
Mm.
then we would have different conversations. But oftentimes, people want you to sincerely listen. And
Yeah.
if you can do that, it will make you, any therapist or coach, makes them a much better counselor, because you have to listen to what is being said. And even more importantly, sometimes you have to listen to what is not being said.
Right. Right. So tangent. Can you see the comments? Justin's in the comments.
Oh, okay.
So there's something that you said without wrapping it this way that I think is super important, is something that I support my clients. I share with my clients and helping them to gain clarity around their purpose, right? And it's looking for patterns in how you naturally show up in life. Like, what do people tend to come to you for help with? And
Now,
oh, go ahead.
it has been so far just across the board from my clients. I even have had some international clients that I'm able to counsel internationally. They're not bound by the same laws here in the U.S. But
Mm.
depression, anxiety, LGBT issues. Some things I hadn't really heard of, and I had just be honest
Mm.
with the client. This is not something I am really familiar with. I said we can have other conversations while you look for a therapist that can focus on that issue with you. But I don't want to not take you because you're having this depression and anxiety.
Mm.
But through working through other issues, we were able to focus on that other issue that they had that I wasn't really that familiar with at the time.
Got it. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for taking those cues. And what's interesting is a lot of times the things that we do most naturally, like our gifts, right? We take them for granted. Like in the work that we do, even though we're on two different sides, like literally and figuratively in the moment, two different sides of the spectrum with the work that we do, that we're still connected. But the chief part of what we do is listening, right? Who walks around and says like, yeah, my gift is listening, right? Most
Right.
people, most people don't. But let me tell you, when I had that epiphany, it changed my life. I'm like, wait a minute, just similar to you. Wait a minute, these perfect strangers are coming to me and like literally telling me all of their business in ways that I would never, me being the private person that I am. And I'm like, they're coming to me to listen. And if they're really brave, they'll ask me for my 2 cents too, right?
Right. And
But
you,
I know that I am a safe place. I'm a vault. And that's just how I showed up in my personal and professional life before I even had the first inkling or thought or desire about being a coach. So for anybody listening that's looking for that clarity, that's just like waiting on a sign, on a something, the pigeon to come back to the ark, whatever it is, just know that it's probably staring you in the face and you're overlooking it because it's something that you do with such ease that you don't even count it work, or something that you could possibly do and create a career out of or around. So
okay.
thank you for sharing that part.
Yeah.
When it comes to like I guess a series or a therapy engagement, if you will, what's the average length of a typical engagement? It's like one session or just ad hoc?
And that is really going to depend on what the client's issue really is. If they're having a relationship issue, that's something just a small, and they want to discuss that, it could be a few sessions. You also have to follow the money. For instance, if you are been assigned therapy through an EAP program, they're going to give you a set or a pay for, I believe it's 4 to 6 sessions. So they believe that your issue, you should be able to find some resolution there. And depending on your insurance company, for whatever the diagnosis is, you may get a more or less sessions. For instance, I have a client that has some depression, and that depression is centered around parent-child relationship. You have to have codes when you submit to insurance. Now, without the depression, I'm not glad that the client had the depression, but without the depression, I could not have counseled him just on the parent-child relationship, even though that was the source of it, because insurance companies won't pay for just parent-child relationship counseling,
Got it.
even though it's needed. That alone does not get you does not get you paid by an insurance company. So there
Got
are
it. Got it.
different
Got it.
guidelines that therapists have to follow. And you also still have to be ethical. You may think that someone needs counseling for whatever reason, and hopefully there's something else going on. I shouldn't say hopefully, that you can offer them services if the only way they can pay for it is through insurance. So with that, I will admit that I do take on pro bono clients. They're mostly, the clients I've taken on are mostly youth where their mothers have reached out in desperation and not being able to get services for their child. I can't turn them away.
Mm,
So
got it.
that is something. So if someone is watching and you know someone in that situation, I make some time on my schedule for those clients that are underserved.
Got it. Now, what he's not saying is that everybody, that's not for everybody. He is worth his weight in gold. You hear me?
Okay. And
And I know,
and
I have personally, I've referred people. And when I refer you, I set it and forget it. I don't ask about your business because it's not mine. But I have had people come back to me eons later and say, oh, yeah, I reached out to that therapist you recommended. Oh my gosh, he's amazing. And I'm just like, well, I'm glad you told me. I'll keep sending people his way.
yeah,
And
but
let me tell you, he is worth his weight in gold. So even if you have to pay out of pocket, and I know that's an option too, right?
yes, it is. You
You
know,
can pay out of pocket, but like, what is there a price that you can really put on like your health, right? Mental health is a part of your health. If your mind ain't right, other stuff starts to break down, and that's a whole nother conversation. But like, is there really a price that you can put on your sanity, right?
right? Yeah, and
And
yeah, I like to kind of use the analogy. Say if someone was looking to get some plastic surgery done to their face, you're not looking for the cheapest person. You want someone that can get the job done. So
that's right.
find
That's
someone
right. And
that
if
can
they know
offer those
anything
services.
about me, I'm quick to tell you, I'm not free, nor am I cheap, and neither are my friends. Okay.
Okay, and what I'm about to say now doesn't really fit in with your platform, but I have to get this in whenever I have an audience.
Okay.
And there are Black women in the audience. What I want there to be is a national day for Black women to burn their capes. It's time to stop being Superwoman. You have, as Black women or women of color, you always take on the world, and you are so deontological about it that you feel it's your duty to take on everybody's issue and everybody's problem. And at the end of the day, you are exhausted. That's because you're wearing a cape. Take it off. And you might see somebody headed for the manhole. Do this. You don't have to save them. Look down and say, well, are they going to kill themselves? They're just going to get hurt. If they're just going to get a little skint up, stand around and help them back up. You don't have to resolve everybody's issues. Make sure you take care of yourself first. Like getting on an airplane, put your own mask on first. So don't sacrifice your abilities or your mental health to save someone else. It's great to help other people, but take care of yourself first. It's not being selfish. And I'm not telling you to be heartless. I'm asking you to use your heart less. Take that cape off and let people do some of their own things for themselves.
Done. And if anybody has a question, we know where to send them, because Danyale said, no, I couldn't agree more. And I know for a fact that and what that looked like for me in the beginning was saying no.
Right.
It was saying no with my time. Places that I was showing up like clockwork. It was just like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't even have time for me, right? First of all, I'm too young for this to be life. Let's start there. And I was even more youthful than I am today. So for me, I'm like, no, something is off, and it was saying no, and that wasn't always well or easily received by others. But guess what? They lived to tell about it, and so did I.
You're right. And I didn't come up with this. This is something that I borrowed from Oprah and Shonda Rhimes. It was an interview that I saw. And they said, it's okay to say, I'm not going to be able to do that. And they said, you don't have to apologize for not being generous with your time, your money, your energy, your thoughts, any of that. And I worked with clients and I got them to say, I'm not going to be able to do that. But one lady, she didn't really follow it. There was someone that was always asking her to do something. And she said, I'm not going to be able to do that right now. So what she did was gave them the license to come back and ask again. So it's okay to say, I'm not going to be able to do that, period. That's all the explanation you need. And with that also, sometimes people don't get to ask us to do things. When you, especially women of color, when you find out someone has a problem, after you've listened to them, you sat with them in the moment, you're then trying to fix it. So they don't get to ask because you're volunteering.
Ooh, the awareness will change your life and somebody else's too.
Right. So you don't have to volunteer for everything. They might ask you and you might want to do it, and they might not ask you. They have someone else lined up for that, or someone else they can ask. For instance, someone has to go to work and their father, the father of the kids and whatever, they need a babysitter. And you can drop the kids off at my house. Okay, I can't really. And they do that. But little did you know that her sister's in town and could have kept the kids. Had you been quiet, the issue would have been resolved. But you took it upon yourself to resolve someone else's issue without them even having to ask. That's wearing the cape.
Is there a formal term for that?
I don't know. I haven't found one. However, I know that it exists. I was raised by a single mother. She had friends that eventually became single mothers. And I see that in all of the African-American women in my life. Now, I haven't done research to be able to prove this, but I've seen it enough to know that it exists.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That was helpful. Okay, we're rounding the bend. Listen, there's so much good stuff, but I want to be respectful of your time because you listen. I can't thank you enough for even just giving me this time to have this conversation, which is so important and valuable, especially in the space that I take up. So just a couple more questions. What would you say that we can and should be doing to continue to close the gap when it comes to um, helping um, I want to say people of color for sure, but really anyone who is interested in or desiring therapy, but it's or maybe even doesn't have the awareness. What
You know,
should we be doing to close that gap?
I think you have to allow people to make their own minds up and not push myths and show that the myths are not real. Like I'll just go through some of the myths about counseling that I would like to put to rest, and that is that counseling is for crazy people. It's not. It's for people that want to have a better understanding of themselves and how they function in the world. And also, people think that counseling has to be a severe problem before you reach out. It does not. Get
Mhm.
that issue or that cycle that you can't seem to break under control before it becomes severe, and you become not. You're just not able to function if it becomes more severe.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got
And
it.
or to think that a counselor, they don't know me, they can't help me with my problem, but that is the reason they can help you with your problem, because you, that counselor, will be able to see you. And if you were just trying to talk to a friend, they may bring other things in or may not even know what's in you, or you're not able to be absolutely honest or truthful with that person, because we don't tell anybody everything, but you can do that with your therapist, because what
Right.
a therapist does is actually holds a mirror up so you can see yourself, and the therapist may put the dots on the page, but the therapist guides you to connect your own dots,
Mm,
and you see the picture even more clear if you connect your own dots rather than the therapist do it.
right. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. What are some of your favorite mental health resources for entrepreneurs and mid-career professionals?
Right now, there are two coaches that I like to recommend. Of course, you being my favorite coach in Virginia. I don't know if you're bound by the same rules that we are in the state, and I actually assumed that you were, but maybe not. And I
Mm-mm.
also have a friend in Atlanta that I would recommend to people in that state. But those are the only two states where I know. I do know one other life coach. However, I haven't used her resources because I am not familiar with her. But you and a friend in Atlanta, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and build this website I've been talking about. And since I want women to take their capes off, I need to have that resource on my website so they can reach out to a coach like yourself. And if they do, and you're no longer taking clients or whatever you're booked, you might be able to recommend another coach.
For sure. For sure. It's the gift and the network that keeps on giving. Okay. And so for somebody who's been watching and they're like, oh my gosh, like, and they're in Virginia because we know we're bound by licensing rules, right, and regulations.
Mhm.
For someone who is in Virginia and is interested in working with you in a client therapist relationship, how what do they need to do first or next?
Okay. The easiest thing is you have to get in touch with me somehow. And right now, the easiest way is through Psychology Today. I
Okay.
am listed there, and you can send an email or you can call me through there. They will not send me your exact phone number, and you can't see mine. But what will have to happen is I will invite you to the site where I actually practice, and to for me to send you an invitation, I just need your first and last name, phone number, email, date of birth, um, and that's it. And I send you an email. You're able to sign up with the company called Sounder Mind and choose me as your therapist. That's how you actually get started.
And when you
So
say invite them to the site where you actually practice, you mean a virtual space?
yes. So currently, since COVID, I'm still doing counseling virtually. I haven't found a need to go back into the office, although it can limit some things in counseling because a lot of counseling is body movement or when someone feels anxious. For instance, if we were having a therapy session right now and you were constantly tapping your foot on the table, on the floor, on your purse, I would sense that you had some type of anxiety, but I can't see your entire body. So I would have to just pay close attention to your facial expressions, this, that, and the other. But no, I'm still doing virtually. And I seem to be able to reach more clients that way. And many African Americans feel more comfortable about having the virtual sessions instead of actually going into a place, a mental health facility that still has some stigma attached to it.
Got it. Got it. Listen, I call this series the best of both worlds, but it's so interesting. Like, this is the case of the Danyales, right? Danielle, the coach, and Mr. Danyale. So it's the best of both worlds times two. Danielle, this has been amazing. I hope it's the first of more conversations and collaborations to come, for us doing this amazing but necessary work that we both do on both sides of the spectrum. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you. Thank you
your
very much.
insights and your expertise. And before we go, do me a favor and remind everybody what your areas of specialty are.
Okay, so anxiety and depression, a lot of my clients log on so I can help them with that. I do family relationships, family conflicts, their intimate issues with a couple. I also help with areas in the LGBT community. But log on, have a conversation with me, and we can see if we're a good fit. And we can get some of those things resolved for you or get you on the right path. Or if I'm not the right fit, I will definitely help you find someone that is.
For sure. And so, like you said, I don't know if you missed it or not, but you can go. The best way to get in contact with him is to go to Psychology Today and look him up there. I know I've done a quick Google search just so I could see what the experience was like myself. So if you Google Psychology Today, Danyale Little, spelled Danyale, he'll pop right up, and it's easy for you to see how to contact him. I think his number's there, all of that good stuff. What I'm going to do also is everywhere that I have this streaming, I'm going to go and drop a comment with the link so that anyone
Okay.
who sees it, I'm just going to I want to close the gap, right? So I'm going to do my part. Y'all got to do your part and show up for yourself and ask for the help that you need. Danielle, I'm so thankful for you. I appreciate you. I'm rooting for you and much continued success. All right, y'all, this has been amazing. And if you appreciated this, drop us a comment and let us know. I'll see you on the next one. Let's see.